Alex Nato with you here for BlackSportsOnline.com. Going to talk now to the UFC light heavyweight champion getting set to make his first title defense. It all goes down Saturday, September 24th, live on pay-per-view, UFC 135. Jon Bones Jones, how are you, John?
Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man, and I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy training schedule. I know you have a lot of media obligations coming up, including Jimmy Kimmel Live on Monday. Looking forward to that. But how's the training been going?
Training's going well. It's honestly the best training camp of my career. I've learned a lot about myself as an athlete, and now I'm just putting it all together. So I'm excited. I feel like I'm right where I should be.
Glad to hear it's the best training camp ever. I mean, people need to realize, I think sometimes they might forget because you've looked so impressive that you're only 24 years old. You're still growing in the sport. Like, I mean, John, recently over the past couple of weeks, I watched your UFC debut against Andre Gusmao. You looked awesome back then. You won the fight, but it's amazing how much more crisp and technical you are now than you were then. I guess you're expecting to even get much, much better, and you're already at the top of the game.
Yeah, man, that fight should never be replayed again. I look back at that fight, and I'm just disgusted, pretty much. You know, I guess that's why we go to the gym and work on our weaknesses and work on our game constantly. And, I think the best is yet to come.
So is it tough watching yourself back, or is it just tough watching that fight because it was so long ago and you've grown so much? Because I know that some guys, like I've heard Matt Mitrione say, for example, that he just absolutely hates watching film of himself fighting. He always thinks he looks terrible. I think it's an OCD thing. Do you have that problem, or is it just tough watching that fight?
No, it's definitely not OCD. It's just where my skill set was back then. And, it was such a low level. I was doing everything wrong and hands down, not kicking with proper technique, not punching with proper technique. And now that I know better, it's just a little embarrassing at times. But like I said, that's why we're constantly in the gym.
Now you're preparing to take on Quentin Rampage Jackson, a former champion, really a legend in the sport. Now, you guys were both in the news a couple of weeks ago for a story that was kind of ridiculous. I found it amusing just because it was so ridiculous, with Rampage being a little bit paranoid, accusing you and your manager of having spies in his training camp. Now, my question is, when you heard that story, when you heard that accusation, were you kind of amused like I was, or were you offended by it? And I can see if you were offended because the guy is basically calling your character into question. What was your reaction to the story?
When I heard the story, at first it was from my teammates at the gym. They had caught one of it through the internet before me, and I was pretty amused by it. When I had got home and checked my Twitter account, my Facebook, and my personal text messages, that's when the offense started to kick in a little bit. People were starting to call me a cheater, and they're really taking into consideration that I would do such a thing. I put a little thought into it, and basically I came out with a quote letting Rampage know, along with my fans and his, that I would never disrespect the integrity of our sport and what it is to be a modern-day warrior and an elite martial artist. I have way more pride and respect for myself in our sports to ever stoop that low, send a spy into someone else's camp. So it worked out. Rampage had to drop the whole thing once, people called his bluff and realized that he was being a little immature, maybe looking for some attention or sell some tickets, and we're over it now. But, if he was going to do it, he probably should have did that a little closer to the fight. Now I just know what I'm up against, the type of character I'm up.
Now, if we look past Rampage's paranoia and look towards his fight style, obviously you're not going to give away your strategy, nor would I want you to. As far as assessing Rampage, the guy has a wrestling base. He hasn't really used his wrestling consistently in a long time, really since the Pride days, but we know that wrestling base is there, though lately, and it's easy for me to say this, being a couch potato MMA fan, but lately he's looked a little bit predictable, throwing a lot of punches, not throwing too many kicks. Maybe he hasn't mixed up his game too much. Do you expect him to throw everything at you but the kitchen sink? I mean, for a guy who's really only been throwing punches for the past 5 or 6 years, do you expect him to maybe go to the well, try some kicks, try some takedowns against you, realizing that against Jon Bones Jones, simply throwing punches probably not going to work?
No, I don't expect him to change his game up too much. Rampage is a former champion, and he surrounds himself with the people that makes him feel comfortable. It might even be safe to say that he maybe surrounded himself with yes men. which isn't the way to progress. Yeah, I think he's going to do what has been working for him and what's comfortable for him, which is throwing punches. It's really hard to change your game so late in your career. You're set in a certain way, set in a certain pattern, unless you change your staff and the people you surround yourself with. Right now, it looks like he has the same camp and trainers that he's had in the previous fights. So I'm expecting the same skill set from Rampage, maybe a different level of motivation, maybe a different level of cardio and physical fitness. But as far as the skill set, I predict that it'll be pretty much the same.
Talking to UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Bones Jones defends his title September 24th, live on pay-per-view. It is UFC 135. Now, talking about your skill set, Jon, you're a very crowd-pleasing fighter because you get very creative. I mean, it's almost like I picture you at home playing UFC Undisputed on PlayStation 3 or Xbox and saying, oh, that was a cool move, a spinning kick, spinning elbow. I'm going to try that in my fight. What's your favorite unorthodox strike? Lately, we've seen you throw a lot of spinning elbows. You hit Shogun with one of those when you won the title. Is there maybe any crazy move you've come up with that you haven't used yet that you might like to try?
If I told you that, I would have to find you and kill you. So I don't think I could tell you that. No, but I work on my whole game. I work on my kicks and my spinning kicks, my flying kicks, my boxing and wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I think the biggest difference in this fight will just how seriously we take the sport and how seriously I take every discipline of the sport. That should be the biggest difference in the fight. But to kind of answer your question, I definitely do have unique tactics that I've been training specifically for Rampage, and hopefully you guys will be able to check it out when you watch the fight on the 24th.
All right, and I'm glad you didn't accidentally tell me what those moves are because I wouldn't want you to have to come here and kill me. I'd like to meet you, but I don't want you to have to kill me afterwards. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you sparing my life.
I was wondering about that. You didn't laugh when I said that. I was hoping I didn't make you nervous.
Oh, I doubt you could find me. This studio is it's hurricane-proof, Jon. We get a lot of those down here. I'm pretty sure if a Category 5 couldn't breach this building, maybe Jon Bones Jones couldn't. Maybe you could. I'm not sure.
Don't put it past me. I don't know.
Excellent. Talking to UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Bones Jones. Now, Jon, you became the champion about 6 months ago, beating Mauricio Shogun Hua. Obviously, you were a fan favorite even before winning the title, but winning that title surely put you in an all-new stratosphere. How has your life changed since getting that hardware, getting that belt?
You know what? Life has been pretty much the same. It's been pretty much the same. Training hard, surrounding myself with good people. I guess the biggest difference would be a little more noise from critics, some positive, some negative. So the attention level has changed a little bit. But my personal life and my life as a fighter feel pretty much the same.
And the day that you won the title, you made big-time headlines that day for just hours before the fight, along with your head coach, Greg Jackson, and I think one other of your coaches. You actually stopped a robbery that day. I've heard Greg's side of the story. Can you recount that quickly for us, what happened that day?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm big into meditation. Me, my head coach, and our assistant coach, Greg Jackson and Mike Winkeljohn, we're at a park in Patterson, New Jersey, and we're looking for a spot that I could clear my mind a few hours before the fight and meditate. We heard a elderly woman screaming, her and her husband, and we ran up to the couple, and they told us that they had just gotten their car window busted into, and they had just gotten some of their belongings taken from them. So right away, without hesitation, me and my coaches took off after this burglary. Me being the one in actual fight shape, caught up to the burglar first and took him down. Coaches jumped on him, and we all subdued him and called the police. And they took a picture. They ended up taking a picture of us holding the guy, which ended up all over TMZ.
I saw that.
Funny. Yeah, which is pretty funny.
I mean, it felt like that day, Jon, after hearing that news right before the event went live on pay-per-view, it felt like you were destined that day to win the title, because that was the icing on the cake. I mean, you stopped a robbery. It seemed like fate was on your side to also become champion that night. Yeah,
definitely. It gave me a really good feeling, to help somebody out, to use this gift that I have of athleticism and this cardio and this health to give back and to do something for someone. For no reason. It made me feel great. I felt as if I had hard work on my side and now karma. So, yeah, it was just my day.
Talking to a real-life superhero. This guy stopped a robbery the same night that he won the UFC light heavyweight title. A couple other funny things here, funny notes, John, I wanted to ask you about. I saw a story a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago by now, on Middle Easy that said you despise replica title belts, like those little, cheap title belts that the UFC sells to fans. Sometimes fans bring them up for UFC champions to sign. You're not a fan of the replica title belts. Is that correct?
Well, you know what? It's funny you asked that. I've actually gotten a lot of criticism about that question. About that statement. Someone asked me during a commercial shoot. I was doing a commercial with a comedian, Kenny Powers. I was in a really lighthearted mood. I was having a good day. We were laughing and joking a lot that day. And right after a funny question he asked me, so guys, if there's anything you can change about the UFC, what would you change? And I said to him, pretty borderline joking, pretty much joking, that you know what? If I could change anything about the UFC, it wouldn't be something about the rules or the commission. But you know those little belts they make, those little UFC belts that looks kind of like the championship belt? I wish they never sold those because, guys who earn the right to consider themselves as champions, they worked their butt off. We all worked our butt off to get these belts. And, I don't mind the little replica ones, but the big ones that looks exactly like the UFC belt, those things kind of annoy me. And I hate when some guy walks up and he's just like, hey, sign this thing for me, because it's like, I worked so hard to get the real one. But you know what? I sign them every time. And obviously I never say anything to the fan about it. Just sign them and just wish they didn't exist. So the reporter who asked me that question, he titled the whole interview, Don Jones refuses to sign replica championship belts, which made a lot of parents and fans upset. So it's something that I wish I could take back, a statement I wish I could take back, but I made the statement, and it's something I may have to live with for the rest of my career.
I'm really glad we could have you clear that up, because I remember when I read the story, I kind of took it the way that you just told me. I said, listen, I know John has a sense of humor. The comment might have been tongue-in-cheek, and when you put things in print, it always looks very definite. Now, had that been an audio or video interview, they probably could have gotten a sense for your tone at the time. So I'm glad we could clear that up, because that's pretty much the way that I saw it. Now, John Bones Jones defending his UFC light heavyweight title Saturday, September 24th on pay-per-view. It is UFC 135. He will be on Jimmy Kimmel Live this Monday, September 19th. He'll be on there with Rampage, correct?
Yeah, which should be pretty different.
Now, is there any truth to the rumor that you've had spies in the Jimmy Kimmel writer meetings in order to figure out what questions he's going to ask you?
How do you figure that out? So do you have spies in my camp that know where my spies are?
I've got spies everywhere, my friend.
I see that.
John Bones Jones, best of luck to you sincerely on September 24th, live on pay-per-view. One quick thing, though, here, John, on the way out. The UFC has really been changing, growing in a good way recently with the announcement of the Fox deal. That's going to debut November 12th on the network with Cain Velasquez defending his heavyweight title against Junior Dos Santos. Now, is being on Fox something you'd be interested in the future?
Oh, definitely. Fox Network is a huge network. I grew up watching Fox Network all throughout my childhood, and I'm excited to be a part of it. It's a huge honor. It's a complete different level than where we were before. It's just a testament to see and to show where the UFC is headed. So, yeah, it's great. Absolutely great. I'm honored.
UFC light heavyweight champion John Bones Jones. Bones, I hope you don't have to stop any crimes September 24th before defending your title. Best of luck to you. We'll watch you September 24th, UFC 135 live on pay-per-view. Thank you. Oh, and on the way out, anything you need to plug here? Twitter, sponsors, anything you got going on?
Yeah, just hit me up on Twitter, guys, at Johnny Bones, JONNY, and pretty much figure out everything else from there.
Be well, John. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Thank you, guys. Take care. Thank you.